Game 6 between the Cavaliers and Bulls was pretty much one-sided after the first quarter. The Cavaliers put a beating on the Bulls after the first, without Kyrie Irving on top of that, and LeBron James didn't play too well himself. It was a good series overall because there were some great moments. A D Rose buzzer beater, LeBron with the get back in game 4. I mean, both were tremendous shots, big moments, and they both felt like series tilting game winners. The Cavaliers, though, they were the one in the end that prevailed. They will now be on to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they await Atlanta or Washington. And honestly, I think either team doesn't stand a chance. Welcome back to the Best Damn Sports Blog. Back again, it's time to talk NBA playoffs, Cavs and Bulls, because that series has ended in embarrassing fashion for the Chicago Bulls. They got stomped out on their home floor in Game 6. The Cavaliers beat them 94-73, and it was pretty much murder she wrote for Chicago after the first quarter. They scored 31 in the first, and for the 3 quarters after, they only mustered up 42 points. They did not score over 20 once again in a quarter, and their highest total in one quarter was just 16 points. So after that, Cleveland pretty much dominated them. They led by 14 at the half, won by 21 points. Kyrie Irving went down, I believe, in the first half with the injury, did not return. He only had 6 points in 12 minutes. Didn't matter, Cleveland still handled them easily. I mean, Matthew Dellavedova went off in the game. He led Cleveland with 19 points. I think he had about 13 in the fourth quarter. Huge points to keep Chicago out of range. And also with Tom Thibodeau, I don't understand why Paul Gasol was not playing in that game much more unless he was injured. Because in the first quarter, he came out, scored about 6 points, and looked great, and their offense looked smooth with Gasol in there. I mean, I understand he was coming off an injury, but to be honest, he looked like he was 100% out there. And 24 minutes, I think he deserved a lot more in the do-or-die game. And they had him out down the stretch. I didn't see him much in the fourth nor the third quarter. So I didn't understand that on Thibodeau's part. And I think this is the last game we'll see him as the Bulls coach. And honestly, I don't have a problem with it. He's a great defensive coach, but he runs his players into the ground. Gives them a lot of minutes when they don't need them in the regular season. And now maybe that's why the Bulls look burned out in Game 6, or it looked as if they quit. But Tom Thibodeau, his offensive scheme is just not good enough, and it's pretty predictable too. He's had a nice run with the Bulls. A great run. He's proved that he's a worthy NBA coach. But I think he has taken this team as far as he can. But the Bulls, they have some decisions to make this offseason. But I think for sure they need to bring back Jimmy Butler, no questions. But they're going to have to find another scorer. Just think if they would have been able to land Melo and say he wasn't injured, how vital he would have been in this series for the Bulls. And that's just been the problem for this Bulls team. Every game in the series, they hit a scoring drought that Cleveland capitalized on with players like James Jones hitting three-pointers, J.R. Smith hitting wide-open three-pointers, Matthew Dellavedova. The Cavaliers role players stepped up. Tristan Thompson was phenomenal in this series on the offensive glass and the defensive boards. You gotta love a player like Tristan Thompson. And he bet on himself this season. He didn't sign the extension Cleveland offered him for about $48 million over 4 years, which I thought was more than fair for Tristan. But after seeing what he produced in the playoffs and during the regular season, that man deserves to get paid. I can respect anything upwards of $70 million for him for over, say, 4 to 5 years. I believe he's that good and he will be that vital to any team. His offensive rebounding, the hustle and energy he plays with, that is vital to anybody's bench. And in Love's absence and last season what he was able to produce, I think he's more than capable of being a starter. But back to the Bulls. Their problem is they don't have enough scoring threats who can create on their own. All they have is Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose, and that's just not good enough to get past the team led by LeBron James. And that's just the reality of it. they're going to have to get another guard forward who can create off the dribble, create his own shot, and hope that will work. Because I don't see an addition like a LaMarcus Aldridge or Kevin Love, who are possible free agents, really changing fate for this Bulls team just because they already have Paul Gasol. I think what they lack is that scorer from the small forward or shooting guard position. If they add another scorer, I think this team can take the next step and really compete with LeBron James and the Cavaliers, because we have to realize this is a Kevin Love-less Cavaliers. And say he does leave, that will be money that the Cavaliers can spend to make this team even better that already beat the Bulls. And like I said, Kyrie Irving didn't play in Game 5. And let's not forget, J.R. Smith missed Game 1 and 2 due to suspension of this series. If it wasn't for Derrick Rose three-point jump shot to win the game at the buzzer bank that he didn't call, this series could have ended in 5. But that's enough about the Bulls. I want to talk about the Cavaliers because they just looked fantastic so far in the playoffs, regardless of Kevin Love being missing as well as J.R. Smith. They had the one game where they let the Bulls come out in Game 1 and pretty much showed them up on their home court, although the final score was only a 7-point deficit. The Cavs still got worked on their home court by the Bulls, but outside of that game, the Cavs have been dominant, with or without Love. And regardless of their opponent in the Eastern Conference Finals, whether it's Atlanta or Washington, right now Atlanta leads 3-2 in the series. But regardless of the opponent, I believe the Cavaliers are headed to the NBA Finals. The Wizards' John Wall is injured. Although he's playing, he's not 100%. But with him not healthy, 100% healthy, I cannot see a Wizards team getting past the Cavaliers. I cannot see them being able to keep up with the scoring with the Cavaliers, although they have the truth. They have Nene. They have Gortat. They have Bradley Beal. That team is just an inconsistent team when it comes to scoring. They don't really have that many good three-point shooters. And the Cavs, they have a surplus of three-point shooters. They have three-point shooters that don't even play. So, as good as Washington is, as good as Paul Pierce has been down the stretch for the Wizards, if they were to somehow come back and win this series, I think Cleveland will handle them easily unless John Wall is back to looking like the John Wall we saw during the regular season that made the All-Star team. Other than that, I don't think Washington has a chance. Not with a banged-up John Wall. I just can't see that. And then moving on to Atlanta. As good as they started out the season, 43-11 heading into the All-Star break. But they closed out the season finishing 17-11. And in the playoffs, we see them struggle against the Nets. That won 6 games. The Wizards is 3-2 right now. They finally regained control of the series. But they were down 2-1 to the Wizards, and John Wall had missed at least 2 games in that series. I think the injury to Sefolosha is a bigger deal than most people think. They think Sefolosha, oh, he doesn't score that much. But the spacing that he brought to the Hawks and the defense that he brought to the Hawks is not being matched. Now DeMar Carroll, who incidentally became the Hawks' best scorer in the playoffs, now has to exert energy on both sides of the ball that he necessarily didn't have to before because he was already their best defender. It sucks that now he's become their best scorer. And I think the loss of Sefolosha for defensive-wise and to space the floor is a bigger deal than most people think. And I know it's cliche, and I know people hate to hear this about the Hawks because they're actually a great team to watch, and they display what team basketball is all about. But at the end of the game, the Hawks just do not have that go-to guy. As good as Jeff Teague is, that's just not him. And Al Horford, as good as he is, he can't create his own shot per se. Someone is going to have to feed him. Same with Paul Millsap. DeMar Carroll, he's not that great off the dribble. So this team does not have a go-to guy down the stretch. And the Cavs, well, they just have the best go-to guy in the NBA. the greatest player in the world, who is en route to his 5th Eastern Conference Finals appearance. That's tremendous. And LeBron, he hasn't even been efficient in these playoffs. But it hasn't really mattered that much. And I don't think it'll necessarily matter in this series, because the firepower that he has with him, I don't see a team being able to stop him until possibly the finals. And even then, it depends who his opponent is. This is the best supporting cast LeBron has ever had as a Cavalier, and they are closer to the NBA title than they have ever been in Cavs history.